Welcome back, everybody. We're here for some questions. So if you got some questions, just queue them up in the chat room, and we're here to answer them for you.
Well, there's been a couple of questions and statements here. One of them was we ought to do this more than one time a year. John, how many presentations do you do a year?
I think I've done over a dozen in the last year, including a class, a 3-hour class in Dayton that we did. Just a year ago, we did one in Atlanta, had about 100 people.
I think you actually volunteered to do that one on Friday morning again for Dayton 2013, too.
I did. I'm looking forward to that in Dayton. Well, we'll talk about that. Gosh, that's just 5 months away, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right around the corner, and I do know we might have a warm-up session. I think the guys that just put up a D-Star repeater in the Tupelo, Mississippi area have nailed down a date. They don't know if where they're going to advertise it, but a D-Star day in Fulton or Itawamba, Mississippi, to try to bring people down from Tennessee, Alabama, and maybe see about getting you guys to come along and help too.
Sounds very good.
And there's probably a lot of us will be showing up at Orlando at the Hemcation there.
Oh yeah, got that one down there.
And there is a forum, a D-Star forum scheduled for Orlando as well.
Yeah, that one's usually a huge one, isn't it?
It is. Great Ham Fest, and we usually have standing room only for the forum.
And I think W9CHA is the one that master of mischief, I should call him, for doing a D-Star event there.
So there was a question from Greg Ham. What does the magic not found at packet start mean in DShark, and that actually shows up in D+ too? When you first turn on the RP2C controller, it negotiates with the gateway computer, and an init packet is sent out, and it's a packet that just has the 4 characters init in it. And I don't parse that packet as a valid, D-Star voice or data packet. So that's the time that you get the magic not found. Can you hear us now?
We're back.
Due to technical difficulties, we're now back. The question was, if you're registered in only one gateway, how is it that you can control multiple gateways? And each gateway itself has a list of users that is synchronized back to US root, and I think it's around midnight US root then pushes that database.
It's every 5 minutes.
Oh, it's every 5 minutes now. Okay, I remember when it was every midnight, but every 5 minutes it pushes the entire...
No, just the diffs. So it knows what you've got, and it sends you the things that you don't have every 5 minutes.
So while you're registered at one location, that's going to be your home repeater. But then you can migrate to any repeater or gateway repeater on the same network. In this case, we're using US root as an example.
Yeah, once you're registered anywhere, you're registered everywhere, and you can do commands on those all of those gateways unless the admin is not allowed that to happen. There's a lot of configurability in what an admin can allow and disallow with their specific repeater and gateway. But in general, most people leave theirs open so everybody can link and unlink. Then they can put in timing requests that say, we have a net Sunday night at 9 to 10, don't allow anybody to link in or link out in that time period, that sort of thing. But other than that, most anyone that is registered can link, unlink any gateway to any other gateway or reflector.
Another question is, how can users on orphan gateways or gateways that are died or offline be unregistered?
That's a U.S. Trust Server thing. They have to go into the Trust Server database and remove all of the users that are on that orphan system. That's why it's important when a system is going to change their call sign or disconnect from the network to go in and flush all their users. That syncs to the U.S. root server, and then that'll remove all the users. If it just died and that user needs to move somewhere else, then that has to be done with the U.S. Trust Server team. They have to go in and manually remove all the orphan records so that you can then go and register on another system.
Well, that makes a good point. If you're a system administrator, then you need to be running that backup software, because if your system dies, and it will because it has a computer and has a hard drive, and hard drives go at the most inopportune moment, you will lose, or you can, in that case, as you say, orphan those users. And so it's important to run that backup where you back up all important databases and configuration information.
Why? Have you ever had a repeater die?
Actually, it worked just exactly like it was supposed to do it. We started having, about 4 months ago, we started having some errors that were attributed then to a hard drive which was 7 years old. And we had backups from like 2 days before. So using Brian NJ6N's backup routine, we had a good backup. Following the instructions for restore, we put a solid state drive. Interesting idea for gateway computers as you're starting to use those. We did the restore just according to the procedures, and it went flawlessly.
Which is another interesting tidbit, and it's something I know that you do, John. If you're going to go set up a new gateway and you go out to Surplus to get a computer to put in it, the best thing you can do is pull the hard drive that's in it and put in a new hard drive, because that's the thing that's going to fail first most often.
And think about using a solid state disk instead of an actual hard drive today.
And they're getting cheap. Actually found the 60, Ed had one that we replaced that with, but I just rebuilt a computer that's actually running the Ratflector that we were just using. And I had I think it was a 60 gig solid state drive I bought for $40. So,
which is only about 55 gigs more than you really needed.
True.
But also, can't you guys, instead of running everything on a hard drive, do a virtual RAM hard drive?
Well, that's what a solid state drive would effectively be.
Okay. Interesting question that came up here, and this one's going to be interesting debate, because as we've promoted D-Star, hams want to link everything everywhere. The question is, plans to link D-Star to Echolink, IRLP, and Analog Technologies. And while you think that it would be an interesting concept to do this, there's a few reasons why not to. And the biggest thing is, those of us that play on D-Star have gotten used to the radios IDing for us. When you go through a D-Star system into an analog world and you're not IDing but your radio is, your transmissions are not legal. And then on the other way, early this morning when I was showing my slide, you have voice packets as well as data packets that are in the data stream. If you come through an analog world into the D-Star world, while you verbally ID, the data packets go unidentified by the originating operator. And if you're transmitting a signal through, you are the originating operator. So there are questions on whether that data stream is legally ID'd from the originating operator. Now, there's other reasons that I think some of my other colleagues will mention, because when you first make the transition from analog to D-Star, you can notice the digital artifacts. But when you go from playing with D-Star after a few weeks and you go to analog, John?
I really noticed that. There's a couple of nets that I'm involved with. One is the Southeast D-Star Weather Net, which I'd invite, if you're in one of the coastal states, Texas through the Carolinas, Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Reflector 2A. Join us for that. We have about 50 to 75 users check in on 40 or 50 repeaters that are linked, and it goes real fast. The thing that I noticed as a net control, I got spoiled by D-Star because everyone pretty much sounded the same. We also have in Georgia a few linked analog repeater networks for Skywarn and some other things, and you hear all kinds of squeaks and squawks and courtesy tones and beeps and boops and terrible audio and noisy audio that you just don't hear on D-Star. So I've gotten spoiled being a net control on D-Star as opposed to on an FM net.
You also have to remember when it comes to some of the items that Ray was talking about, that D-Star doesn't just appear in the United States. It appears in 45 countries worldwide, I believe now. And so we have to live up to the licensing requirements of all those countries. So we have to be a little careful with that. I saw one question here. Can I place a Samba FTP HTTP server at the gateway site?
That would be Greg Ham.
Greg Ham, yes. Okay. And the answer is yes. If you put it on the 1000X, just like your question asked for, you should be able to get it from the ID ones. The 1000, as far as I know, is actually reserved for each repeater site specifically for that situation to have local servers there. Just, of course, don't put it on the same IP address as your gateway or the repeater itself.
N5DGH is asking a good question. If GPS must be disabled for DRAT's data messaging, then how are hams map tracked while they are doing field surveys, sending in reports? Good question. Very good question. If you are running DRATs or data from DRATs to the application, a couple of things. Yes, you need to disable the GPS settings within your radio, and those are defined on the drats.com website of what all of those parameters are. There's 3 or 4 usually in a radio. A couple of things you can do. If you're at a field location, you can actually put GPS into a serial port on the laptop and still do data and GPS at the same time. Typically, though, what you see is you just want to get a location of someone that may be on foot in the field or mobile, and you're not really wanting to send DRAT's data, but you want to send position information. So in that situation, turn on the GPS settings, use your either external GPS or internal GPS, GPS speaker mic, and that will work just fine. So it's kind of an either or, but there's a way to do both if you absolutely need to.
And courtesy of P85PL, just about all the repeaters should be repeating the DPRS, the APRS equivalent for D-Star, DPRS information into the APRS network. So if you go to any of the internet APRS sites,
APRS.FI,
APRS.FI,
find you?
Yes, you should then be able to find you as a D-Star user if you're squawking DPRS information when you transmit.
Yeah, that is one of the cool things. I think, Robin, you had something to do with this. When we first started playing around with DPRS, we were looking at doing it the same way as APRS, and that was to have separate nodes or have a receiver up on the repeater to intercept the DPRS data stream. And it might have been a rumor. I heard that you had said, no, pick this code out of the gateway communications and then propagate it through that way.
Yeah, I worked with Pete on that.
So there's a lot of community efforts to develop a lot of stuff beyond the hardware side.
And so using the DPRS, John and I had an event, I think Robin helped out a little bit, in Atlanta, where we had a large number of D-Star radios. We were doing a bike run, which is about 100 miles run. We actually had 3 repeaters, I think, that covered the areas. And so the users, whenever you need to talk to mobile, they just started talking, and whenever they start talking, Net Control sees on their map, up comes information of where they're located. And so quite often we had the I'm lost, and Net Control saw it and said, well, turn left, turn right, turn left, they were there. Oh, thank you, and we're back on track.
But then some of the events where we look at how things are deployed, if you're doing search and rescue in an area, you might not, or more than likely, whoever's sitting there taking the notes is pushing data through the DRATS chat while people are checking off their different zones, nothing found here, and when they squawk nothing found here, their call sign and coordination comes up on the map. So it's really how you devise on deploying people and integrating the technology, whether it's simplex, going through a repeater, going through a hotspot or a DVAP or dongle, or however they want to do it. I mean, I have yet to see one scenario or one deployment map fit every scenario out there.
And Michael brings up a good point, Michael Down Under, that thanks go to Pete Lovell, AE5 PL, for writing D-Star Monitor, which runs on every gateway, and that's what provides the spots that go to the dstarusers.org site and to the DPRS to APRS network. He's the mastermind behind all that.
Can't leave out my buddy Jerry there, W5MAY, because I think he started manipulating the database and gave us the D-Star Last Heard page, and then he and Pete developed the D-Star Monitor to bring it on. Now, Jerry's in the chat room. He can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But, yeah, some of the early on guys, from coming under a lot of fire from when all the fragmentation, they've kind of stepped back and just made sure the system kept running. Brian, with all of his scripts.
Yeah, the whole U.S. Trust Server team, the K5TIT team that started out, they've done an amazing job, and they really kick-started D-Star and gave it a foundation, a solid foundation that's led to where it is today.
Tom, can we switch over to this laptop here? So WX480X has asked if we showed the NETS listing.
And while you're going to that, I'll answer W4BXA's question. He says,
that's not it, is it?
There it is.
do you have to key up or do something to stay registered? And you should not. Once you're registered, you should remain unless that system goes away. Or there's a major upgrade. When we went from version 1 to version 2 of the ICOM gateway software, all the users had to be re-entered. But we haven't had to do that because we haven't gone to G3 yet. So there's nothing you have to do to stay registered.
And there's not a G3 in development either. Unless
I think I heard that before.
But, you know, this
It might
also
be a
makes point.
non-ICOM G3.
Where we're talking about the D-Star Monitor software that Pete did, that's an excellent example of how open the architecture is, and people like Robin and Pete and others are developing utilities for it that really enhances the functionality of D-Star, and that will continue.
And the other thing, just with all of those developing software and hardware, I think that completely squelches the myth that D-Star's proprietary and D-Star's ICOM. Because I'm sitting in the same room as Robin, and
I'm still alive.
There's no cups applied yet, have there?
But they are on opposite ends of the table here. No, they're good friends.
Sitting next to him earlier.
They're good friends.
So if we go ahead and switch back now, Tom, we show this out. So let me tell you a little bit about this, the net screen, the one that you came from. It's got a listing. No.
Desktop 1 it should be.
That's it.
Robin Michael's instigating here. He wanted to know, and I know the answer because I've sat through many of your presentations. Did ICOM give you details on the protocol between G2 and the IDRP2C, or did you work it out yourself?
That's a very good question.
D-Sharp.
I didn't know anybody at ICOM to work with at that time. Does that answer your question?
So here on the screen now, we've got some of the listings of the nets. If you've got any additions or changes to this, please send them to me at info@dstarinfo.com. But we've got the nets across the world. Notice they're spread out all over the place. one of the things that you might not have noticed on this page, if you hover over the net times, it actually will tell you the next net. There's actually a lot of work behind that truly should tell you the next net, because while that might sound easy, remember some nets are in UTC, some of them are in local, and depending upon the time zone where you're at, where it's at, they change different days. So this should be really correct information that shows up here. And I'll switch over to another right quick that we haven't shown off, the D-Star calculator. We really haven't talked much today about the 8th character as we go through, but the D-Star calculator tells you if you want to learn how to program your radio, it will show you what to put inside. So here's an example for the local repeater. Basically, up here in the top, I've chosen my local repeater. I chose a module that I'm connected on now, the 443. Right now I chose a function link to reflector, so I want to put in the codes in my radio's link to reflector. I've chosen reflector. Down below it, I now see reflector 30C link for the repeat 1 information, the repeat 2, the frequencies I need to put in my radio, and then once I link, I want to just go back to the local repeater with gateway type configuration, and we'll let the page refresh. It'll take a second here, and we want to come back out the same one we're going in on 443. And now we see, indeed, about the only thing that changed is the your call changed to CQ at that point in time. So a lot of people have used the D-Star calculator really just to learn how to do the programming, because you're going like, okay, I think this is the way I'm going to do it. Let's go look it up in the calculator. The calculator goes like, oh, no. And then you go like, oh, yeah, now I understand it a little bit more. So you can use that if you want to get into the radios and programs. You can also use the software to download. We've got a number of ways for you to learn how to do it.
Okay, KM4CJ asked an excellent question, because I get this, and half the people want it one way and half want another. When you unlink, you're on a local repeater, you unlink from a reflector, do people on the reflector see you unlink, or does it just go away silently? And it does. The U command that you use to unlink goes all the way through the system, so everyone sees it. And exactly half of the hams want to see that, so they know that they can't talk to you anymore, and the other half don't want it because they think it's extraneous information. So I'm waiting on the one person to vote and tip it in either direction. But yes, you do see that. Also,
can we make it an option?
For who? Who gets? That's the problem. Is you're linked into
I just wanted to turn down
network, and it's like, does this admin want it to go, but this one doesn't? That's confusing. It's like, well, I see it if it came from this one, but I didn't. So there were several questions, several design choices that were made like that. The other one was, do you let people that aren't registered across links? And I don't want to even go into that. That's another one of those 50% yes, and actually it's 90% yes and a very vocal 10% no. K6AGA, Eris, asks, will DVAP tool be on the Raspberry Pi? And in fact, the board that I showed you earlier has DVAP tool running on it, but it's the graphical version, and I think the optimal version of DVAP tool will be a text only. So when you boot the Raspberry Pi, it brings up DVAP tool, automatically opens the device so that it's ready to take commands from your radio, and that's definitely on the roadmap to do.
Here's a question from W5PFR. Why isn't the APRS info from the gateway repeater showing up on the reflector? Actually, when I first read it, I read the other way around. The APRS information does not come into the gateway, because if it did onto the air, it'd just be broadcasting all the time. There's so much of it coming out. Now that I read the question again.
What?
Yeah. Why
is the gateway for the DPRS only one way going into the APRS world? Why doesn't the APRS world broadcast
on the local repeaters?
On the local repeaters.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's just so much data.
You'd never be able to talk, which is the same sort of issue as people that set their radios to beacon their GPS position every now and then. That's a real etiquette no-no. Make sure you don't have auto beaconing on your radio so that every few minutes it beacons out your position, because if everybody did that, then nobody would ever get to talk. It would be 14439 all over again.
And remember, if you have your radio set to beacon every 5 minutes, not only do we know who you are, we know where you are.
And it'll come after you.
A couple of questions on reflectors. One is about how about unlinking a reflector when somebody is talking on the reflector? If you're using a repeater, you actually can do that if you have the busy transmit lockout turned off on your handheld. The thing is, it will not unlink from the repeater until after that transmission is over with. I know I've done that a couple times on our repeater.
In a sense, you can't override a person.
Well, the receiver's still open there waiting for you to receive, so you can transmit
You're talking about the distant station is
up to
transmitting.
the repeater, but it won't drop that station until they drop key. And that does occur sometimes because there's a few nets that do get a little bit long.
That's one of the sources of black holes, because when you and somebody else on the other side of the internet key up at the same time, somebody wins, and the other person doesn't know that they didn't make it in. So that can be the cause of some dead air. KD9GY asks about Beta 6 coming out soon. What I'm hoping is that 2.0 Final will come out soon. I've been saying that for a while now.
Long time.
And I've been trying to get each platform stable at the same time. Originally it was Java software, and every time Sun, then Oracle updated Java, they broke things. So I got rid of the Java, went to Qt-based libraries to make it fast at C++. And so Qt gave me that cross-platform that Java gave me as well. But I would get it working fine on Windows, and then Apple would release the next release of Mac OS, and it would break. And then I would get that one working, and then something on Linux with port audio would break. And so they just came out with a 5.0 version of the Qt infrastructure, and when we get back from Memphis, we're going to
It's embarrassing.
try to get it working on all the platforms at the same time, and as soon as it works on every platform, 2.0 comes out, and I've been saying that's going to happen for some time now, and maybe if the stars align and it doesn't snow too hard, that'll happen soon.
There's a question here. So how do you police the lids on D-Star? And that's one thing I can say for D-Star. It seems like there's not what you consider lids, or some of them are just new to it and don't realize that you don't do the beaconing like you do in APRS, where everybody wants to broadcast every position. But usually just hey, you got your beacon on, they're quick to make that adjustment. Oh, tell me how, I didn't realize I turned it on. Can you tell me how to turn it off?
Yeah, the best thing to do if you want to send your GPS information, set it where it only transmits it when you push to talk. That way your voice is already going out, the data, your position data will go with it.
But where I was going is, haven't you noticed that there's more of a helpful crowd on D-Star?
There is. And we see that during some nets. For example, we use the quick key format, which we'll demonstrate here in just a couple of minutes. But someone will come in and give their full, this is so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. And people are generally very polite because we're all still learning a lot. And as D-Star develops, there's more to learn, and we're having fun with it. So I think you'll find, as Ray says, generally a pretty, number one, kind of a technically oriented crowd because they've gotten into something new and they're interested in it. And the second thing, a helpful crowd to try to help others get the most out of the technology.
W5PFR's got a question here, and I think this would be more in line with MonLink, which none of you guys have touched on. And that is how to quickly disconnect the repeater from a reflector.
You.
Just a U command. Is it just?
Well, not only just a U command, but using MonLink to set up for certain things, and then also you can take that privilege away. Not everybody can have the privilege to link and unlink a repeater.
Correct. Yes, in the D+ settings you can do that and allow the users, give the users the ability to link and unlink. Do the unlink, and then you can run commands on the gateway computers themselves to link and unlink it, the repeaters from the net, so from wherever you get them linked to.
Michael asks a interesting question. Michael, I think you've asked this one before, and I keep resisting, and I'm still resisting, and that is if you put something other than CQs in the your call, to not forward it out over links. And I went back and forth on that. The D-Star can be very confusing, especially to new users. And what if you're talking on a link and you can only hear half of a conversation? When do you know how to talk and when not to talk? You'll get into that situation if you're doing call sign routing on one that's linked and not call sign routing on another one. And to me, it's just everyone needs to hear all of the conversations to know when they can talk. Because if you're on your repeater and somebody wants to talk to you and I'm blanking you because you're call sign routing, then you're not going to hear what that person said when they were doing CQ or doing. It's confusing, and so I haven't found the optimum design for that. But
then you've also got that group that has come out that have written their software to have certain nets where the call will be routed based on their STN number.
Now we did a modification for the STN group so that it does not forward STN calls specifically.
Ah, okay.
So here's,
although I don't see that many STN.
I think here's probably the most important question of the day. Luther, KB4LHP's got a question or a statement that he's a new user and he's kind of afraid that he might be considered a lid when he gets on the air because he really doesn't understand D-Star. Well, Luther, I'll tell you this. D-Star users, most of them are new anyway, so you're probably not the newest one on the air. But I have found that D-Star users in general are the most helpful folks. Get on, say your call sign, say you're new, and stand back for people to help you.
Oh man, as soon as you say that you're new, you do get a pile up, and usually if you're on one Charlie or also one Connie, she'll be one of the first ones there to talk to you. And it's very interesting.
That's good. I had not heard that before. One Connie.
Luther did point out one thing. Ham radio operators use the term lid, and that's usually a real hard term. But video gamers and other ones call themselves noobs, and they laugh about it. And there's so many of us. I'm still a noob on D-Star because I'm learning something new all the time, like you're doing new filters or new modes or new adjustments. So it's a real fun technology that I've enjoyed seeing come out of Japan and just play with it.
I think the biggest thing that most folks out of D-Star like is the fact that, gosh darn it, is new. It's something else to learn. There's more stuff out there, so don't look at yourself as being a noob at this point in time. Look at yourself as having more opportunity to learn with the rest of us.
Going where no man has gone before.
Ooh, then they copyrighted.
Hey, you violated. We're about to run out of time, but we still want to have a little bit of a net, and if we're going to be on 30 Charlie, and I think W4LET-B here in Memphis is...
How do you pronounce that?
Memphis. I'm from Tennessee originally, so
okay.
I kind of got the Elvis thing down. Did I say that right, guys? Did you hear? Memphis. No, you still haven't got it.
I'm doing that with
That answered the question.
I'm doing that with a Savannah on accident.
N5 DGH thanked us for giving him 3 extra days of life because he was laughing about one Connie.
Hadn't heard that either. All right, so if you'd like to join us, we're going to do a short net, and one of the things we want to illustrate here on 30 Charlie, and there's probably already the world is out there, and we just brought a few more people over there. I want to show some software that we use for the Southeast D-Star WeatherNet, and some of the other nets have started to use this. This is written by a guy over in Birmingham, Alabama, Ken Atkinson, WB4FAY.
That's it.
Lose Ray there. He's blocking the screen.
Please do so.
Ken wrote this software because he runs a net and he thought this is very helpful to do. It's called D Plus Report. Now, the downside of it is it runs on the gateway. So if you have a bunch of net controls, they need to be able to log in to the gateway, and administrators can give them limited access where they can only get to this program and run it. Now I'm going to start the program, and it's called D Plus Report. And you have some configurations. I can enter my call sign, and by doing that, it won't show me on there. I'm going to go around that. Starting date, I'm just going to go through most of these as defaults. Time now, ending date. Then you have some display mode options. And depending on what net I'm on, I use different display options. For this one, I'm going to do it like I do the Southeast WeatherNet, and I'm going to use option 6, and that's going to eliminate, it's only going to show me 2 windows on the screen. I'm going to show a bunch of lines here, not use user aging, which after a while it turns yellow and then you go away, and I'm only going to use, I'm actually running this software on our Lawrenceville repeater on the B module, so I'm going to enter that. And here we go. Now,
so first of all, let's say that we kind of apologize a little bit for the screen being so hard to read, but as we have so many people check in, you'll see the screen start to get full on us, and if we weren't this large, we'd kind of scroll up our own screen.
Now I'm going to turn up my HT here, and hopefully the mic will pick it up okay. As someone keys up, you will see on the bottom part of the screen, oh boy, I opened the floodgates, didn't I there? As someone keys up, you see... All right, everybody hold off for just a minute. Hold off for just a minute. I want to run this like a directed net. Everybody stand by. Oh, I heard myself. Thank you, Paul. Everybody, quit keying right now. But as you saw... All right, everybody stop. Stop.
There's a delay.
Please.
You're delayed, remember?
Stop. As you
Somebody
key...
give me a radio.
Robin, cut people off. As you see people keying up, you see their information at the bottom of the screen. You see the UR field. Well, you see all 4 fields. My call, UR, R1, and R2. That can be helpful in troubleshooting someone that's getting into the net. They may have a setting wrong. You'll see that. You also see the user message. And the first time they show up, you see them come up as a new user on there. Sorry for the green color on that. But at the top of the screen, what you see is all of each of the call signs, and they are underlined the first time that they come on. So if I'm running a net and I say Alabama stations quick key now, I'm going to see them key up, and they're going to be sorted by repeater. Now, once I go through that list and go back and call those stations to see if they have any traffic for the net, then I'm going to hit a Control Z, and those underlines are going to go away. Then I know those stations, I've already cleared them into the net, and I'll wait for the next group. So I know it won't be long before someone else keys up here, and as soon as they do...
Good afternoon, WX4AX 30 Charlie.
All right, now, okay, here's our lesson. We're going to take quick key check-ins. And so that means... Everyone stand by, please, on the net. We're going to run this like we do a directed net.
But is the net hearing this?
I'm not sure the net is there.
Because these people may not be watching.
This is WB4QDX. If everyone would stand by for just a minute, we're going to run a short net demonstrating some things that we're showing on W5KUB.com. So everyone, please stand by on the net.
It says you're not on 30C with your voice.
Well, I think it's just answering.
I think people are keying up. If everyone would stand by on any repeater connected to 30 Charlie right now, please stand by. WB4QDX.
Heard all that.
Okay.
Did you hear it?
Heard all that.
Now I'm coming in on W4LETB in Memphis, which is connected to 30 Charlie with half the world, I think. And I'm going to clear the call signs here. And as everyone keys, I'm going to give instructions to quick key only. Don't give me your voice. What I'm going to say is key one time and watch your call sign coming up. Remember, we're delayed here on the screen. This is WB4QDX. We're going to run a short, quick net here on 30 Charlie, and we'll ask stations to quick key only.
Go by regions.
And quick key when you do that, and we'll go by regions. If you're asked to quick key, just key your mic for 1 second on your radio, dongle, or DVAP, or hotspot node, and I'll see your call sign. Do not transmit voice at this time, and then I'll come back and clear call signs one at a time. Now, first I'm going to ask stations in Tennessee. Tennessee stations only, please quick key for our demonstration net. Now, you see my call showed up under W4LET. I see W5EMA, KK4IOH, who's in the room across the way. And see, as I got more stations, that moved up and is sorting out. W4PL in Chattanooga's got a station keying up. I can't see the other station, K3PDR. I don't think that's a Tennessee repeater, but we'll see. Okay, I've got these stations. Now, watch what I do here. All right, I got a few stations that I'm going to go back, and we're going to go one at a time, starting with W5EMA. Give me your name and your location for the net.
Good evening, this is Gary, Golf Alpha Romeo Yankee, located in Collierville, Tennessee, and using the ID 880H, and I'm enjoying the show, over.
Thank you, Gary. Now let me go to KK4IOH. He's across the room, but he's going to travel via the magic of D-Star around the world.
Hello, everyone on the net this evening. This is Michael, Kilo Kilo 4 in the Oscar Hotel, on the HT here at the event, checking in. Now back over to you, KK4IOH.
All right, very good. Let me get another Memphis station here, KJ4SJR, your name and location. Gee, I feel like I'm doing the Southeast Weatherland.
Good afternoon to everyone on the net. This is Scott, Kilo Juliet 4, Sierra Juliet Romeo, up here in Shelby Forest.
Let's go for
Just
Europe.
tuned in on the webcast and thought I'd jump in here and be a part of the demonstration. Back to net control.
All right, thank you very much. Let me go over to Chattanooga and pick up K4VCM. All other stations, please stand by.
Hello, John, and to the net. This is Tom in Chattanooga. Carry on.
All right, thank you, Tom. Now, for those of you watching on the demonstration, I'm going to hit Control-Z. All the underlines went away. And let's see if we have any stations in Australia that are connected. Australia stations only. Please quick key for our net. Now let's see what happens if we get any stations.
See if Michael keys up.
There we have. VK5ZEA has keyed. W5CSG, I don't think you're in Australia, so please pay attention to the net. But maybe he is, and I don't know that.
Well, not on the W5URD repeater.
Right. All right, I'm going to pick up VK5ZEA. Your name, your location for our net.
Good afternoon, John. I think it's afternoon where you are. It's just gone 8:30 a.m. here. This is Michael, VK5ZEA from Port Lincoln. And I've been up since 2:30 a.m. listening and watching the video cast. It's been great. Many thanks to all involved. And I've had a great time, and I'm going to have a nap a bit later on this afternoon. Back to net.
All right, Michael, thank you so much for checking in. We've enjoyed your chat with us on the chat room on K5 or W5KUB.com. So we've really enjoyed it. We just want to make this a short net. I'm sure we could have 100 people checking in right now, but we just wanted to demonstrate a few things. and we'll go back to our broadcast on W5KUB. So thanks for the stations who participated. WB4QDX turning the Reflector 30 Charlie and all the connected repeaters back over for normal use. WB4QDX.
Seemed like you have that script kind of memorized.
It's familiar to me, having done it a few times with our Southeast WeatherNet.
If you were to do it again, when would you maybe do it?
I'd have to look that up on dstarinfo.com under the net schedule.
But it might be what day of the week or...
Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central Time on Reflector 2A.
Good.
UTC?
I said 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m.
That changes.
How about Australia?
Michael will have to tell me that.
Okay.
All right, I hope that's been helpful. If you're interested in that software to run on your local repeater, Tom, you'll switch us back to the camera. D Plus Report is it. Ken has made some other modules. One is called MonLink that runs. MonLink can do periodic announcements. MonLink can set a default link where if you want your repeater to connect to a certain reflector normally, it can be there, and then you can unlink it at any time, and then after it's been idle for a certain period of time, MonLink will restore back and connect back to that default link. So very handy stuff from Ken Atkinson, WB4FAY, and he's got information on his website, WB4FAY.com. Wow, it's 4 o'clock in Memphis.
In where?
Memphis.
Did we finish on time?
I think we're pretty doggone close. Hey, we appreciate everyone who's participated today. I hope we've been able to answer a lot of your questions. It's been a lot of fun for the team here. Next HamFest you go to, look for a D-Star forum. If you're coming to Dayton, looks like we're going to have some activities there. We just appreciate everyone's participation.
So
and if you
Especially
have
the chat room. They've been awesome today.
awesome
Yes,
in
they
the
have.
chat room.
So first one that would be coming up would be February Orlando HamFest, or Hamcation in Orlando.
Hamcation in Orlando, middle of February.
Yes.
And of course, if you've got a local Hamfest and they're not doing D-Star, you yourself do D-Stars at the Hamfest. More people we have out there talking about D-Star, the better it spreads.
Oh yes.
And if you need some PowerPoint presentations, please feel free to get in touch with me. I've got some you can use. Send me an email, wb4qdx@arrl.net. I'll be glad to share anything with you that you can use for presentations to your clubs or groups.
Or info@dstarinfo.com. Any general questions you might have, just send them to info@dstarinfo. Or get on the nets, get on the radios, and just ask the people. Everybody's here ready to help you.
It's been fun.
It has been.
Yes, it has.
You want to take us out, Tom?
Definitely thanks to Tom for hosting this.
Thank
He's
you,
been
Tom.
Yes. Way to go, Tom.
awesome.
We haven't planned the ending here yet. I'm not
Great setup.
You know who we really need to thank is Tom's ex-YL, Kathy, who has fed us and has been a great hostess, even more than Tom. And she kept us fed, and that's what hams like.
Y'all missed the smell-o-vision. Okay, it was the odors that were coming up from downstairs were quite nice.
And the apple dumplings.
To die for.
Did you have ice cream with your apple dumpling?
Sausage.
Oh, that just
you
spoiled
didn't
it.
need the ice cream.
That just
That would have
spoiled it.
ruined the apple dumpling.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. See you again soon. Talk to you on D-Star.
Oh, there's
the
lunch.
food. Oh.
Right. Okay. So, we'll just go back to something. Anything.